Peace and love, guys. I just wanted to talk a little bit about, for artists and so forth, about the modern world and how culture is much more important than genetics and what culture is. Because we're in a kind of a befuddled, changing period now. And I don't know if it's a bad period, but it seems like there's a lot of modern technology that is melding with the international culture. And it has to do with the invention of the computer and the internet and all that stuff that's going on right now. And so many massive numbers of people are online and communicating in ways that they never could communicate before. There was always a sort of a editorial leader that led people in directions that they thought should be the best way to go. And nowadays, it's anarchy out there in a way. You know, everybody who wants to put something out on the internet can say whatever they want through some internet channel. And when they do that, what happens is they develop a culture that isn't controlled by an editorial leader. So whether it be the government or the money interests or just the newspaper editor, which was the old time. In other words, you know, we had the Scripps Howard and the AP and what was that guy's name that did all those newspapers, Hearst and all that, and they were the leaders of the editorials, and they led us in a direction, and we still have that to some extent. I mean, there's MSNBC and Fox News and Newsmax and ABC and CBS and CNN, but in addition to all that, we have 10 million people online communicating ideas back and forth. And one of the things that's going on right now is this retreat from traditions, retreat from the institutions, and maybe I'm a conservative. You know, I mean, you know, I know I put out another video a while ago that said I'm a liberal, but in some ways I am conservative because I do believe that some institutions are actually good, are actually beneficial to the well-being of humanity and the world. Some institutions, I mean, we could talk about this, you know, in the United States of America. The invention of the United States of America was somewhat of an accident. And, you know, let me just say this. It's not perfect. It never has been perfect. But, you know, perfection, it's hard to measure perfection. But the United States of America was created by some English men that came to America and wanted to be independent. It was partially Thomas Paine, who was sort of a socialist. And then there was Alexander Hamilton, who was definitely a capitalist. And they came together and tried to say, how can we get along and have everybody have a certain amount of freedom? And see, the reason that they could have freedom is because they were taking over large swaths of land, and they could roam freely across that land, and they wanted freedom. So they created, somewhat by accident, you know, with Madison and Jefferson and guys like that, these very intelligent men sat down and they wrote the American Constitution, and the American culture was developed. And of course, it evolved from the Greek, and then the Roman, and then the English, and then the American. And I think maybe it's changing again a little bit right now. It's been over 250 years, and there's some kind of a question about the institutions of the American culture that are going on right now. And one of them is the concept of equality. And there's a certain group of people that are out there on the internet right now who are talking about things that are, not otherwise allowed to be said when they had the leaders of the editorials deciding things. And then those things are largely based upon genetics, race. And race is a concept that, we could argue about the definition of race, but I want to say this, and this is kind of the point I'm trying to make here. Culture is way more important than genetics. These people who have a fear of the future are people who are afraid of that their genetics aren't going to win out, and they see in the culture this different types of ideas that they don't like, and they want it to go back to what they used to have when they were in total control. And when I'm talking about the white supremacy thing that's going on right now, well, if you're an artist, you got to understand that the culture is way more important than genetics. It's what has developed us. And if you want to talk about America, what would America be without the black culture making our music, for example? And most of the great music in America that has spread throughout the world comes from the Africans that were brought over as slaves, and they helped with the white and the black people together developed a music that is now worldwide as a culture. The Europeans had their cultures too. They had their their artistic cultures, but we talk about technology. The technology developed, yes, originally, it was Edison and Franklin and Newton and guys like that, but now it's largely in Japan and Korea. They're developing, and Taiwan has makes most of the chips that we use in computers. The technology is now gone worldwide, and we can't fear the fact that it's not my race or not my genetic background that's developing it. What you have to do is you have to surf that culture. And as an artist, I want people to understand this. When you make art, whatever art you're making, what you're doing is you're developing culture. You're important, whether you know it or not. And I know they talk about now AI art and all that. That doesn't worry me. Because the AI might be the culture of the future, but we have to surf it like a wave. You go on the edge and you just surf with whatever the motion is, and you ride it and you stay on the edge of it. And that's where the development and the well-being, and whether you like it or not, the inevitable future of mankind is. So I just wanted to say that. Thank you.